After Dark is back. OTAs are here. Battles will be had. Jobs will be won. My cat will continue to scream at me from the other door. It's CHGO Bears After Dark, and we're starting right now. Welcome back to CHGO Bears After Dark. And look who is here to see everything that I mess up on a show. It's Stephen Nicholas.
What's going on? This is terrifying. You're producing and I'm sitting in this seat.
Yeah, well,
what could go wrong?
Well, things have already gone wrong. My cat's yelling at me. I neglected to put the intro video into the show. But who's counting, right? Who's counting? Only to do this in front of the executive producer. That's always smart. I am your host, Greg Braggs Jr., resident meatball alongside me. As announced, here is our executive producer and Bears extraordinaire and everything in between here for CHGO Sports. That is the one, the only Stephen Nicholas. Welcome to the program, bud.
It's good to be here. It's good to be on the other side for once. I like this.
Yeah, it's good, man. And we need you.
Everyone just presses all the buttons for me now. I mean, you guys had a cushy lifestyle over here.
We did indeed. We did indeed. Well, we have a lot to talk about here tonight. Phil Ottochian, Draft Dr. Phil, will be here in just a little bit. Shane has the night off. He's tending to his kids' basketball game. And, hey, it's summertime. So, we're going to always shuffle the deck and shuffle the roster around. So Phil will be here in a little bit. But OTAs are here this week, and there's just so much to kind of get into. Thursday, there will be practice where we here at CHGO Sports will be there on hand. We'll have a post-practice show on Thursday, so stay tuned for those announcements. That being said, I just thought, Stephen, we should set the table here this week as, they've been working at Hallis Hall for the last month, but this is the week they can finally do a little bit of legitimate practicing. It's not going to be to the level that you see at training camp in August. That being said, this is probably now where you can mark early evaluation time for Ben Johnson. All right, you got the getting to know you phase out of the way. We know who these players are. The rookie class is in. Everyone should be as up to speed as they can be with Ben Johnson's offense, first year, second year, or otherwise. But now it comes down to setting that foundation, Stephen, on who can get a leg up for those first team reps early on in camp.
Yeah, I mean, we've already gotten a couple glimpses here. We've heard some good things about some of the rookies, even some of the undrafted guys. I mean, there's a lot to look forward to here. But, yeah, I mean, we're going to be starting today just talking about some of these competitions to look at. I'm excited. I think there's some good ones. I think we saw what a Ben Johnson rookie class could do last year. He's kind of started them off a little slower and then little by little started building up those reps. And I'm thinking we're going to see a lot of the same this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's there is some really good ones, and we're going to be talking about them here tonight. We'll get to left tackle here in a bit. The linebacker room I certainly think is interesting. We're going to talk, obviously, a lot about the secondary this season. There's already a lot to be made of that when it comes to, guys like Jalen Johnson who haven't been there yet. He just got married a couple weeks ago, but certainly something that's noteworthy considering he missed so much time last year, along with Kyler Gordon, who's also still dealing with soft tissue concerns. And so we'll get into the secondary here in a little bit, but I kind of want to start in your wheelhouse, Stephen, and that is at the offensive line and specifically at that center position. You were such a big advocate pre-draft, the day of the draft, a month before the draft, you were banging the table saying,
I looked back, it was March 6th.
There's a Linderbaum clone lurking around that the Bears should take interest in.
Yeah, I mean, I was really big on Logan Jones. As you said, I called him a Linderbaum clone, not just because they both went to Iowa, not just because they were both converted defensive tackles, but you looked at the measurables; they were nearly identical. All its difference is about 3 pounds, and that's not very much. The wingspan almost identical. The vertical leap, I think, was identical. And then you look at the type of schemes they were in. They're both zone blocking centers that also won a Remington Award. It goes to the nation's best center. So I mean, the comparison was an easy one for me, and I'm hoping that the results also kind of mimic that because Tyler Linderbaum just got offensive tackle money in the free agent market, and he's clearly among, if not the best centers in the game, right up there with Creed Humphrey, in my opinion.
Yeah. And so the big $1 million question is, can Logan Jones get up to speed? So we have some different videos we're going to throw around. Some coaches spoke over the last week. We've heard from the players over the last month. We've even heard from Ben Johnson numerous times. And maybe there's some things you've heard before, but I think it kind of ties this all together and sets the stage now that we've kind of itemized, all right, this is where the Bears are going to be looking at. So I think all of this is going to be useful and tied together nicely. So let's kick things off with Logan Jones talking about competing to be a starting center on this team.
I mean, it's very challenging. You got to go out and earn everything. And the offensive line here is very talented. Joe Tooney, Garrett Bradbury, everybody on the offensive line. So, I got to go out and earn everything. And just to be able to come in with that group and be able to learn under veterans, obviously we're competing, but we're having fun at the same time. So it's such an honor for me to be able to come in and, learn from those guys. And obviously you compete. And that's part of the game. That's why we're here, right? And compete as if you're a starter. But it's just going to be a lot of fun. I look forward to it and the opportunity for growth and learning. This is my rookie year, and I don't think I could ask for a better position to be in. Just from the head coach to the guys in the offensive line room to the O-line coaches. I'm very fortunate.
There's rookie center Logan Jones. It certainly sounds like he has the right mindset, Steven. But the key is, how will he develop in this structure going to camp, short period of time? I mean, you don't get a whole offseason when you were drafted in late April. So to try to catch up to speed, here's a little bit about Logan Jones talking about how he's going to have to develop over this summer.
I mean, there's a lot that I got to work on and get better at. Our offense, they put a lot on the center's plate, which is honestly kind of fun. I kind of like that, and to be able to learn and grow and go through all that and just continue to learn the game. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I know I got a long road ahead of me, but it's something I look forward to. I'm not going to be perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect. It's an imperfect game. But as long as I continue to grow, learn, have fun, and then at the end of the day, just, go out there, play some football, keep it simple, run off the ball and block some guys.
And he is going to be perfect. Week 1, he's going to be the perfect center, best center we've ever had.
Yeah, and the biggest hurdle for him isn't necessarily you can hear how articulate he is. Obviously, Ben Johnson's not bringing anyone in here that, especially at that center position, that isn't going to, have a really good mind for the game, good mindset, good attack, strategy, and somebody that's certainly going to be ready from a game plan perspective. But the biggest hurdle for him isn't necessarily talent or wherewithal upstairs. It's really a race against time.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a race against time. You're trying to get better as fast as you can, right, and be ready. It's going to go like this, and next thing you know, we're going to be in fall camp. So doing what I can now to better prepare myself for when that time does come. In a film room watching tape or just learning the offense, just everything. There's a lot I'm trying to do fast, but there's some things I got to slow down on a little bit, take time, so I understand the reason why we're doing things versus what we're doing.
What do you think your strategy will be to get to know Caleb?
Yeah. I mean, I think just being around the facility is the biggest thing, gaining his trust, just talking to him. I think it starts there, and I think that'll start next week, get to hang out with him, talk to him, just the little things. And then it seems like he's just such a great guy, and he enjoys hanging out with the O-line as well. So I think it'll just kind of happen naturally where I'll get to be around him and in practice and things like that, being on the same page. I think it'll happen naturally over time, so I look forward to that.
Working against time here, Steven. I mean, you're not just have a short amount of calendar time before training camp to be prepared, have as much of the playbook dialed in, get to know your quarterback as best you can, but you're also splitting reps. And that's kind of the big part of the equation is how they're going to divvy up the reps in these practices for Logan Jones and Garrett Bradbury to not just develop both and try to figure out, how much they can figure out from the system, but also get them enough reps to have a good bearing on who you want to be your starting center.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a pretty even split early on, where you're going to see Garrett Bradbury he'll get most of the first team reps early. And Ben Johnson's going to give him a chance to see how he works with Caleb. I'm surprised Carm had an opportunity there to ask him about getting reps with Tyson Bagent, and he didn't take it. So that was surprising to me. But no, Garrett Bradbury, he's the, I guess, quote unquote incumbent. He's the one that's been there, done that before. He's been in the league since 2019 now. So he should be the guy that gets the first team reps to start. And you'll see Logan Jones get, maybe a smattering of first team reps, see how he handles it, see how he communicates with Caleb Williams. And one of the most important things is how he's going to be able to do calling protections for Caleb, because we don't want this to be a repeat of Caleb's rookie year where he gets sacked 68 times.
Right.
We want to make sure he's upright and he's sacked closer to the 24 number that he had last year. That's one of the most important things. When you remember what Ben Johnson said, how important center is in this offense, it's quarterback Caleb Williams and it's center right there at number 2. That's how important this thing is going to be. And if Logan Jones isn't up to speed early, he's not going to get those reps. I mean, we saw what he did early last season in training camp when he pulls Luther Burden off the field for not being lined up in the correct spot. So if the mistakes are there, he's going to have a quick hook on this, because this is, like I just said, one of the most important positions. And if your quarterback isn't upright, you don't have job security.
Yeah, no question. And to kind of expand on that, as we're getting ready to bring Draft Dr. Phil into the program, is Garrett Bradbury talking about how much of a challenge it is to learn the system.
Biggest process of learning the system here in the early stages.
Yeah, just learning all of what it is. All the verbiage, all the terms. I don't think any team in the NFL is running. Everyone's running the same place. It's what do you call them? It's how do you identify things? How do you look at defenses? It's just that verbiage. I've gone through this a few times now, and so it's just getting up to speed on all the little things, the nuances.
And that's the biggest thing, is the nuances. So finally, one more video to kind of tie all this together. You hear from Logan Jones, you hear from Garrett Bradbury. Let's bring back Ben Johnson talking with Hogan Johns at the owners meeting about how big of a loss it was for Drew Dahlman and how important it was for Garrett Bradbury to step into that role. And this is a conversation pre-draft. So this is pre-knowledge that you have now Logan Jones on your offense. But I think it also peels behind the curtain of anyone that's getting a little ahead of themselves. And I think we all are. Maybe not we all are, so I shouldn't just say that generally. But at the same time, I think a lot of people, now that Logan Jones has been drafted, are starting to skip some steps ahead of, all right, he's going to be ready to start. Well, listen to Ben Johnson talk about just how important that role is for experience. And I think this is going to be a tight competition all the way until the final week of camp.
Like, how would you describe Drew Dahlman's impact on your offensive success, but also Caleb's development? And then how does that maybe affect expectations for Garrett coming in?
Yeah, it's significant. There's a reason why we targeted him last year in free agency. And, like I said before, he's a big reason why we were able to get the plane off the ground. Not just as a team, but certainly for us as an offense. Because this thing is really driven through the center. We load them up. They have to be very smart. They got to be able to understand who we want to identify, and they need to be able to problem solve when naturally on game day something gets thrown at us that we weren't anticipating. And so he was able to do that. I know he felt that pressure each and every week, and he took a lot of pride in it. And so he is essentially the quarterback of our run game and our protection system. And I don't think that's going to change going forward now with Garrett. Fortunately, we'll get a good feel as we go through spring and camp what Garrett is capable of, but he comes across as a very, very smart guy as well. So I'm hopeful that we're not going to miss a beat there. He's played a lot of football in this league, and he's seen a lot of different offensive systems himself. So I think the transition is going to be fairly seamless for him.
So there you have it. You just hear Ben Johnson kind of just expand on how important that experience is. And, would be if Logan Jones is ready week 1, they have themselves a superstar center, right? Because
that
in
would be a
order
steal of a
to
pick then.
right, in order to digest this offense in a half of an offseason, obviously there's ton of talent there. That's going to be, a heavy lift, but if something he can pull off, winning that job over a center that was just in the Super Bowl, didn't give up any penalties all of last year, didn't give up any sacks all of last year. Maybe he's not, the Pro Bowler or all pro center, but he gets the job done. If Logan Jones can beat that guy out in a half a summer in the toughest offense in the NFL, that speaks volumes to the player they potentially are getting here in Logan Jones as we bring our guy Draft Dr. Phil into the program. Appreciate you jumping on here, Phil. I don't know if you've been following along here at all or have any thoughts on the center competition kind of gearing up this summer.
Yeah, I heard what you were talking about with Bradbury and putting Logan Jones in a steal department if he's ready come spring. And I think looking at Iowa's offensive philosophy and scheme, I think it's going to give him an advantage to possibly get to where you're going to be surprised with this football player. I broke him down on TTNL, the patron stuff, and saw a future all-pro center. So I saw what the Bears saw there and why they took him so high. And I think looking at the fundamentals of what Iowa likes to do is very much similar. Now, you talked about the language in there. You heard the Bradbury talking about everybody's running the same plays. It's just how they're communicated, what they're talked about. And that's really true. And for me, I feel like Logan is going to be pushing to do that. He's just that type of football player. You look at what he was able to do in college, going from the defensive line over to the toughest position to play on the offensive line, and that's the center position. And most important in my book is the center. We can argue left tackle being the toughest because you're facing the most athletic freaks out there. And now right tackles are obviously facing it. So the tackle position could be, but I've always said, if I'm looking for a line, I'm starting with the center. And the Bears have lacked that. Now you got two guys in there, and I'm a big fan of Logan. So I'm excited about the prospects of having a choice there. And I don't think you've had that in a while. Maybe back in the day before you guys might have been watching with Jerry Fontenot and Hilgenberg battling it out, but it hasn't been that way for a while.
I think it's kind of funny too, though. If you look at Garrett Bradbury, he's been here before, and the opposite, like the shoe's on the other foot now. When he was coming out of college, he was a Remington Award winner. He was the guy that was trying to get that starting center job, and now it's Logan Jones kind of chopping at the bit. And unfortunately, if you're Garrett Bradbury, you're kind of in the same exact role you were in last season, where you draft a guy that was a center. They put the Patriots put him at guard, and then it's almost like we talk about like bridge players, bridge managers in baseball, things like that get you to the next guy. That's what Garrett Bradbury was last year, and in my opinion, that's what he's probably going to be once again this year. I think Bradbury's the favorite to be the starter for most, if not all, of the season. But I also think that this draft pick was made with the eyes towards 2027 just as much as it was 2026.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think you thought you had it handled as the Bears, saying you, with the signing of Dahlman. They were trying to redo, as I said, the driveway. They didn't hire Greg Braggs to lay down some bricks. They came out with the tar and got it all nice, and that's what they thought. Little did they know there was cracks, because when you got a guy that's half out, and if you remember, and I know Shane has pointed this out a lot, Dahlman's last appearance for the Bears was that playoff game, and it was probably his worst game. So don't think that thought process of, am I going to be able to do this, wasn't in his head then, and it showed itself when you're going up against these elite players. in the NFL as a center, your job is remarkable. You have to come out here prepared. And it showed up. So I felt like I will give credit to Poles that he has no clue what's going to happen in the draft. You go out there and you surefire veteran. I saw Bradbury on tape being just as good, if not better than Dahlman. I know a lot of people questioned me in that, but I had cut-ups to show you why. Consistent snaps, more athletic than you thought. Thought Dahlman was a little twitchier getting to the second level, but he didn't have as much oomph in his doubles and get there like Bradbury did. However, now you add this young buck to the table who's really essentially 24, 25. So he's got some wear on the tire, but not really that much when you look at he transferred over to center. So this really sets itself up to be a really good situation with a really good offensive line coach, with a really good offensive coordinator. Sign me up for that, who has a really good quarterback now. This all is cooking with gas right now for Ben Johnson, Rashard, and the offense with this personnel.
Yeah, Sean Stewart here in the chat says, how big of an adjustment would it be to switch centers mid-season? Seems like one of those positions you don't want to mess with if you don't have to. And that's kind of always where I'm at this time of year, especially when we get to training camp. And we ran into this problem a couple of years ago, really before Dahlman's arrival. It felt like every year they were splitting reps at center. And at some point, the rubber's got to meet the road. Last year, they were toying around with left tackle all the way through camp, and that had an effect on them in the first 4 games of the season. Now, ultimately, they had to really push and force their way into finding an answer into the season, and that required it taking till after the bye. But yeah, ideally, you want to have that decision made early on so the quarterback and the center can get as many reps together. And now, if you're asking, could the rookie make the switch mid-season? Well, if he's everything he's built up to be as a second-round pick, he better be, right? He's got to stay ready. That's going to be his job. But it certainly will present its challenges if it's played out that way. Now, when you talk about Tyler Linderbaum as a clone here, well, he started week 1 as a rookie in the Ravens system, blocking for and snapping the ball for Lamar Jackson, right? Creed Humphrey, another high center drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs, started.
Linderbaum, you said, right?
Yeah, Linderbaum with the Ravens. And Creed Humphrey. No, Creed Humphrey with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think both of those guys were first-round picks too. Logan Jones goes a little bit later, but we keep hearing the metaphor of drinking through a fire hose that Ben Johnson is like trying to feed all these guys. I mean, last year was the first time since Olin Kreutz that I saw the Bears use a center to pull on a run play. So, I mean, they really are drinking from a fire hose. They're putting a lot on their plates. And I saw someone in our chat ask about, what they could potentially flip Garrett Bradbury later on. Well, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily want to get rid of that insurance policy if you do opt for Logan Jones, but I mean, think about how people would be reacting to it'd be King Poles all over again if you traded a 5th for him. Then all of a sudden you come back and you get a 4th-round pick for him.
I don't want to cross that bridge right now. But I do think this might sound silly to some, but not to me. So I'm willing to say it. But if Logan Jones wins the job before the season and he's got 8 games under his belt and you now trust who he is and somebody is desperate at the trade deadline for a center and you still have Luke Newman, a developing center behind him. I know people will laugh at that statement, but they had him getting reps this time last year as a rookie center. So they envision a pathway for success for him there. I'd be willing to roll that dice in the second half of the season. Right now, I'm not giving up any of my equity at the center spot, and I'm going to let that whole situation play itself out. So let's take a quick time out here. Give a shout out to our sponsors, Reset. And when we come back, we'll talk about the secondary battles taking place. Steven, if you want to join,
I'll stick around for that. Yeah.
Stick around for one more block. We'll talk a little Malik Ahmed versus Tyreek Stevenson. But first, Our friends over at Sunnyside Dispensary are here to elevate your baseball season. And we know on the north side, we need some elevation. So make sure you hit up Sunnyside because they are your home for judgment-free shopping. They have a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from, plus easy online ordering and in-store pickup, always making it convenient for you good people wherever you are in Illinois. So if you are at the Cubs game, you leave the marquee, you look right down the street, bang, there's a Sunnyside location to you. You're at Bub City on Clark Street, bang, right across the street from Bub City, a Sunnyside for you. Even as far south as Champaign, they have expert guidance all over the place. So head to their website for only the best under the sun, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases, and enter the promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Sunnyside Dispensary, only the best under the sun, and only for 21 or older or Illinois medical card holders. And also, hey, it's still May, and that means we got to give a big shout out here to our friends over at Bone and Beef. Shout out to them. May is beef month. They've been treating us to some amazing beefs throughout the month. I think I've had about 14 of them here this month, and I can continue to go on the Bona diet because it is as good as it gets. And we're announcing the Bona World Beef Championship. That's right, we got the belt at our studio. So eat or share as much beef as you possibly can during May. That's National Beef Month. And be the hero. Use the Bona app to order beefs for your friends and family and office mates. Reward members get BOGO beefs from now through Friday. And if you're not a member, now's the time to join. And the main event, Italian Beef Day, is this Saturday. All guests get a regular beef and fries for $7.99. Each guest can get up to 3 sandwiches. And don't forget the World Beef Championship. Details for all offers are at BUONA.com. Download the Bona app. Bona merch at merch.bona.com. Details on BUONA.com. All right, we're back here on CHGO Bears After Dark. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Appreciate Stephen Nicholas taking time out of his extremely busy schedule to join CHGO. He is the busiest man at CHGO Sports, so carving out some time. We appreciate him, and as always, we appreciate the Tape Never Lies Network family and everyone in the chat, and obviously Phil and Shane. We love you guys, and Shane, we'll see you
Greg,
here.
I sprinted off the football field because I coach football, Greg.
That's right.
Look at that dedication.
Soccer, football. He's a man that wears
No
many
soccer.
basketball.
Steve, make
He
sure
was at a
he knows.
concert. It's
Basketball and football is what I coach. That's it, Greg.
okay.
Well,
Well,
just adding to your resume a little bit.
just adding to the resume. So,
Soccer.
I mean,
I don't even know the soccer.
you're like
rule.
Will Ferrell and kicking and screaming, right? Ditka was in there, right?
Ted, right?
Yeah, that's right. So,
Across the
but
pond.
yeah, that's right. Well, let's give a shout out to Xfinity and our Xfinity big takeaway of the night. This is our big takeaway presented by Xfinity. Xfinity, imagine that. And my big takeaway here, bringing it up to this part of the program, of course, has got to be, look, guys, Malik Muhammad, this is something that I think is going to be really interesting here moving forward. I think you see a lot of attributes that this team likes, and you saw the way Deshaun Wright was able to come to this team this time of year last year and really battle. At this time last year, we were asking the question, is there a battle between Deshaun Wright and Tyreek Stevenson? And really at this time, we didn't know enough about Deshaun Wright to say it defiantly that there was. But by the time we got to training camp, you could clearly see a competition by just the fact that they were splitting reps for the most part. Now that we have that after a year of Ben Johnson's evaluation of Dennis Allen's evaluation of Tyreek Stevenson, you bring in a rookie, and I think this kind of continues to add fuel to the fire of there being another competition brewing here. Tyreek Stevenson is going to have to certainly, this is my takeaway here, Tyreek Stevenson has to come ready right now, because if not, it's going to be contestant number 2 to take his job in the Ben Johnson era, because this coaching staff, they don't mess around, right? So I want you to hear Al Harris talk about what he's seen from Tyreek Stevenson that's different between last year and this year, and maybe there's a little bit of a fire lit there.
Consistency has been a topic with Tyreek all along. What do you see as the big hurdle this year? Contract year, a chance to really establish himself in that regard.
You know what? I would say this for Reek. The young man that reported last year is so totally different than the young man that's reporting this year. He's focused in, he's locked in. The small details, you can just tell by the questions that he's asking, the small details he's honing in on, whether it's his movements, whether it's, hey, coach, just get me to the ball. You know what I mean? Just he's asking the right questions, and he's staying focused in. Not that he wasn't doing that, but I just see that level raised this year.
He kind of protected it there a little bit, Phil, at the end. Like, hey, he was all, but obviously it was enough of a difference that Al Harris, defensive backs coach, made note of it.
I think he's pointing out the reality of maturity in a football player. And a lot of players come into the league with a super sized ego and an expectation of where they believe they are. And then the NFL smacks them in the face, as well as the fans and the media and the lights and all of that. And you get put into a humble place. Now, he was going down a wrong path, trying to defend his antics and actions against the Commanders and try to, brush past all that. And I think it affected him last year, how he was coming into this, like he's better than everyone. It's going to be easy. And having a coach like Al Harris that has done it and has seen this kind of personality. I mean, we all know kids and athletes we played, whether it be college, high school, that were outstanding athletes and they didn't apply themselves. They're the guys at the bar now. The coach was again. We all know those guys, right? Here you are on the precipice of anything. For the possibilities endless for this talent in Tyreek Stevenson. So I have watched his social media, and I want to say Al Harris hit it out of the park, because I just see a body language that's different. I see an answer that's different. It's not jokey. It's, I got a shot here. This might be my last opportunity. I got to feed my children. Right. I got to do this for that kind of humbling. We saw it with Kyle Fuller when, what's his name? God, the defensive coordinator. Why am I drawing a blank on him? He's the best. I put him on Front Street, right? What was his name?
Is that Fangio?
Vic Fangio. Thank you, Steven. Fangio put him what I begged coaches to do and hold people accountable. Fangio was the only one prior to Ben Johnson to do so, and it totally turned around Kyle Fuller's career. He put him on Front Street. He lacks awareness, he lacks intensity, he lacks focus. And he put it on him, and Kyle Fuller responded and became a Pro Bowl football player. And I think that's what we're seeing here, a little bit on himself. Maybe for some people it's a year or two late, and I know I'm giving the long answer, but I'm really excited about Tyreek Stevenson. I have felt like he's your best defensive back. He just has not locked in and done it. And I know Greg gets at me like that, but you're seeing what I said about Jalen Johnson coming to fruition now. He's a me first guy, and those guys kind of frail out. You have to do the work to get to that point. I'm excited about what this means for Tyreek Stevenson. Right.
Yeah, I mean, competition is going to only push for the best on these rosters. Like you saw it last year with Ben Johnson and Steven. Really, you saw it last year at the end of last season, where Tyreek Stevenson was the backup, but when he was called in, he made plays. He forced the fumble on the goal line on a Packers game where he was sitting on the sidelines to start.
Yeah, problem is he didn't get his name called that much later on in the season. I saw it mentioned in the chat several times. He better be locked in. He's in a walk year. I mean, if he wants to make more money, have a really solid career, set himself up for the retirement down the road. I mean, this has to be a big year for him. And the Bears go out, and what do? They draft Malik Muhammad, and they put some pressure on him a little bit. And I actually went back and I pinpointed what I think was the exact moment that the Bears said, this is enough From week 9 to week 10, Tyreek Stevenson allowed 15 catches on 20 targets for 264 yards. From that point on, he saw his snaps decline, and he ended up only averaging 24 snaps per game from that point on through the rest of the regular season and the postseason. So now that he's in a walk year, I think Ben Johnson and the Bears are more interested in seeing what else they have before they try squeezing whatever they can out of Tyreek Stevenson. So my way too early bold take on this is that Malik Muhammad supplants Tyreek Stevenson by week 4, and Malik Muhammad never looks back.
Well, and that's
Wow.
when you ask who else they have, that is the incoming rookie corner out of Texas. That is Malik Muhammad.
How would you assess Malik Muhammad's playing style?
I think he's also a guy that's multiple. You know, you can put him on the outside, you can put him on the inside as a nickel. Just from his evaluation on tape, I see a ball guy. You know what I mean? So now once you kind of give him the rules that what we do here, you know what I mean? I think it's going to be good because, the ball is life for us.
Phil, it's somewhat self-explanatory, but for those that are watching that are asking themselves, what does he mean by I see a ball guy? What do you hear when he says that?
Well, he has a guy that understands the importance of tracking the football and making plays on the ball. Everybody wants turnovers. I talk about this all the time.
Not to cut you off, but I guess my second layer of that question is being a ball guy more than just having good hands?
No, it is more. Yes, it is more than having just good hands. It's having instinctive awareness of where this ball is going to get you to the football. So when I look at him, I see a really good zone anticipation football player. So he's able to drop into his zone, anticipate the quarterback's angle of where he's going to go, and be able to attack that with anticipation and get there. That's really his number one skill set that I look at on his tape, is his ability to anticipate and zone. It's outstanding. I haven't seen that since Nathan Vasher back in the day, also out of Texas, who had a great instinctive awareness in zone coverage and understanding the route tree that's going to attack whatever zone he's playing. Now, his press coverage is very good as well. I just think right now he's more polished at that, and he has really good break on the ball, and he can catch. So he finishes with his hands, and that's really what he's talking about there, getting those balls and getting a turnover with this football player. I like this football player a lot. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm excited. Other than Steven, I think Tyreek is locked in, and I know he's in a.
We'll see which one of us is right on this one.
I'm gonna bet against Steven here. I'm saying Jalen Johnson will be the guy that's getting traded out of town in August. I'm putting that stamp out here.
Well, you've never been afraid to it, and I've always said, like, hey, I'm a bigger Jalen Johnson fan than you are. Obviously, you've made no secret about that. But I will say to only lend credence to what you've been trying to say, and you haven't massaged it. You've said it straight out. You think he's a me guy. I don't agree, but that's what you think, and I respect your opinion. But the one thing I will say lends credence to your tougher evaluation of Jalen, who I think has had some really great days here as a Chicago Bear, is that Ben Johnson wants players that live and breathe, and they don't know what else they would do with their life if they didn't have football. And you can judge or not judge, voluntary practices. And, this time of year when vets are out, it's only a big deal to the very few that still follow the sport through the slowest time of the summer. But the coaches, they're dialed in 365 days a year, and they want their players to be too. That's why they had to have the players union fight back against the coaches who think they should have their players in 360. That being said, coaches are going to look for players that they don't have to ask. to come to
Right.
practice.
Well,
So,
I think that's Malik Muhammad. I mean, we heard that story. I forgive whoever the scout was that said it, but he tells a story of Malik Muhammad when he was at Texas. He's an incoming freshman, and he's got Michael Taft, who ended up getting drafted this year as well. And he's kind of the player ahead of him on the depth chart, kind of showing him the ways, and he's talking to him about talking through some of the things that he's gonna have to learn. And Malik Muhammad looks over at this dry erase board, and he sees the numbers stacked in a certain order. He says, "Hey, what's that?" He's like, "Oh, that it's the depth chart." And he's like, "Well, why is your name down there, Michael?" And he said, "Oh, well, you gotta earn your way up. You gotta work your way up to that. You can't just assume you're a starter." And he tells him, I guess that means you don't want to be in the NFL then. Crazy thing to say, but I love it, because if you're going to play corner in the NFL, you have to take every single matchup personally. And we saw Malik Muhammad do that against the best wide receiver in all of college football last year. He matches up against Jeremiah Smith. I think he gives up only two receptions for something like 15 yards against the best guy in college football. So I'm looking at this, and Malik Muhammad, he's the football player you want. He's the guy that you want to take every matchup personally. And even if you look at his reaction to getting drafted as late as he did, he took that personally. He's coming into the NFL with a chip on his shoulder. I have high expectations for him. I'm standing firm, Phil.
I'm with you with Muhammad. I'm with you with Muhammad. I just want to be clear. I think Jalen is the guy he's wanting a new deal again. He's dragging his feet. That doesn't mesh when you're trying to finish the layup here for the Chicago Bears coach and Ben Johnson. I know it's a new season. We got different guys, and he goes at the podium. The guys that are veterans, he's not having to worry about. But wait a second, Jalen's and I'm sorry, Greg. That's his problem.
Well, if that's what comes to fruition, where I'm setting up a training camp or a OTA battle show here today, and I'm phrasing it as Tyreek versus Malik, and a month and a half, 2 months from now, we're talking Jalen versus Malik. That'll be quite the shot.
That's where I think it's going to be, Steve.
Now,
I think there's a possibility of that. I mean, they're already in salary cap hell here, where they just had to make some moves to just barely get under to sign their rookies. So, I mean, clearing Jalen Johnson's salary would solve a big part of that problem. As far as
Tyler Gordon too, Steve.
Yeah, he's already injured
again already.
The depth chart's scaring me. It really is.
Well, let's hear from Malik Muhammad here, where he talked about playing on the outside and playing in the slot. This is stuff when he first got introduced to the Bears, but I think is relevant to the discussion.
They worked you an awful lot in the slot this weekend. What's your experience playing there, and how do you feel like your game can translate to that?
Well, it is something different, because I didn't play too much of nickel in college, just on matchups. But it's been challenging for sure. Just learning the whole defense, knowing where all the pieces go, knowing where your help is, learning the insides and outs of it. It's been new, but it's been fun.
So right there lends credence to, hey, they were putting him in the slot. All right, so look out Kyler Gordon too. When you talk about Jalen and Kyler, last year when Ben was asked about him, he's like, well, I don't know too much about him because they haven't been here. So finally, to kind of put a bow on this is Al Harris kind of answering directly about cornerback battles here starting in OTA, and that this isn't just necessarily a Tyreek versus Malik Muhammad situation.
Do you see a cornerback battle with him, with Tyreek, possibly?
I'm not going to go into whether we see battles or not. I see battles all the way through the secondary, whether it's the left side, the nickel, back line, the right side, so there's battles all the way through. So it's not just like with Tyreek or anything like that. It's all the way through the secondary.
Well, I hear that, and I think Phil might be onto something then. He's saying everyone's got the competition going.
That's how it should be. And that's another showcase of why Al is such a respected, and the reason he's respected is because he's such a good coach. Competition breeds success. I preach that all the time. And the reality of that always creates the best 11 guys on defense, 11 on offense. And we haven't had that there. We've seen a lot of politics over performance, We have a T-shirt that we have at TTNL, performance over politics. We have to stop with Ryan Poles' high picks, getting playing time, and high spended free agents getting the playing time when the players that are competing with them, you saw it with DeMarco Jackson last year. He was outstanding, and then he's going to the bench for Tremaine.
He's a defensive player of the week.
Exactly, who's terrible, and your defense then takes a step back. That can't happen anymore. The best players should play. Competition right here. Al Harris is in a great place, and so are the Bears. I know you're worried a little bit about the depth, but I think that some of these guys that are lesser names too have an opportunity here, and you saw it with Nahshon Wright. He was just picked up from the Vikings as a camp body, basically a competition in camp. He ended up doing what he did. So I think for the first time in a long, long time, we're seeing these real battles have finishers and putting them on the field in the appropriate way. I think Stevenson has showcased the physicality and a toughness and awareness, and too much immaturity has held him back. If you get that kid locked in with an understanding that his career is based on that, look out. That's a great problem to have, because he's physical, guys. He's not making business decisions in a 3rd and 4 with an opportunity to force a field goal. No, I'm just going to stick my arm out there, Jalen. That doesn't fly with Al Harris. We're going to let you know. So this is good for the Bears.
Yeah, absolutely. Competition is always good, and I think that's clearly the big takeaway from Xfinity. Imagine that. Yeah, absolutely. That's how we do things here, is that nobody is safe here come OTAs and training camp. Not on Ben Johnson's team. So Steven, we're going to cut you loose here as we're getting up against it here, but appreciate you joining us, and I guess we'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
Central.
I'm actually not producing the show tomorrow, but you will see me on Thursday.
All right. Well, we'll see you on Thursday. Thank you for your time. When we come back.
Anytime. Good talking to you.
Appreciate you, Steve.
We love you, Steve-O.
I really do. Steve is a great dude.
Yeah, he is. So, all right. Well, let's take a quick time out. When we'll come back, we'll wrap up the last 10 minutes of the show, kind of talking about some of the other positional groupings and some of the battles taking place, whether that be linebacker or left tackle or beyond. But want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. As a proud customer of Xfinity, I got to make sure to tell you, you have the opportunity to get reliable and intelligent Wi-Fi, but most importantly, you can get that Wi-Fi for the same price for 5 years. You can get that with Xfinity, with the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. It's going to make all the Wi-Fi in your home work together in perfect harmony. It's going to find and fix the problems before you even notice them. Even if your whole family is streaming, it's going to still stream seamlessly for you. And here's the best part. No annual contracts, no hidden fees, and Xfinity's best equipment included. So take it from me, a lot can change in 5 years, but you want to lock in your price and unlock the possibilities with Xfinity. So learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that, and select plans only. Restrictions apply. Always got to give a shout out to our good friends at Xfinity, along with our good partners over at Shady's Rays. That's right. It is summer season. We finally got some 80-degree days. I know I was rocking my Shady Rays, and I'm sure you would too, but you got to make sure you hit them up. Go to ShadyRays.com and use that code CHGO SR for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Why? Because they are seriously good looking. They're polarized, they're durable, and most importantly, they're not stupidly expensive. So you want to make sure you get them. And here's the craziest part about Shady Rays. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair, no guilt trip, just replacements. Imagine that, an eyewear that has your back. You now can take your sunglasses wherever you are without fear. Concerts, boats, ball game, wherever, go to shadyrays.com and use that code CHGOSR for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Shout out Shady Rays. All right. Shout out Shady Rays, and shout out to all of you. Please hit that like button while you're hanging out. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're showing some love over to the Tape Never Lies Network, and subscribe to theirs, become a Patreon, all of that. And Shane, hopefully, will be back next week, as we will have some OTA reports to talk about. Now we're just kind of giving you the preview of some of the different early position battles that I think you have to keep an eye on, and they're certainly notable. I mean, we saw how this broke down last year and how things can get started fairly quickly, and I think, Phil, this is just such a much different offseason than last year, where there was so much focus on installment of scheme. You know, when you talk about rookies only getting half off season, when you're introduced as Ben Johnson was as the head coach in early March, early February, I think, probably, or late January, either way.
January, early February.
You haven't even built your coaching staff at that point, right? Didn't it take a while?
Yeah, you had to hire the coordinators.
Yeah, it's a slow process is basically what I'm trying to say. And so I just feel like this is such a different offseason when you talk about Ben Johnson being able to focus in on some of these isolated positional battles that are going to help push this team over the top. So let's start with linebacker here, because it's not a position that's talked about as much as offensive line or some of the different ones around there. And let's hear from the linebackers coach on exactly how that battle is looking.
You guys put an emphasis on getting faster at the linebacker position this offseason?
Not really. It's everybody is really the same. You know, there's a few new guys. Sanborn, who was here before, he was a pleasant surprise because he's really smart and sharp and conscientious, tries to do everything the way you want it to be done. Then the other guy is we drafted the kid from Arizona State, okay, Keyshawn, and I've been really impressed with him. Really, really smart. Does try to do things exactly the way you want him to. Bush is quick and fast, you know what I mean? The whole group, they're moving well. They look good, you know what I mean? They're not the big name guys that are out there, and that's fine, but I like the group. They're working hard on it, and they're sharp and smart, and let's see, like I was telling somebody earlier, that we try to teach them to play multiple positions. You know what I mean? Do they have versatility? Because if they have versatility, it creates more value for them, Somebody goes down, you put the best guy in, not just that guy that was a backup, Same way that we did last year.
There is linebacker coach Richard Smith of the Chicago Bears. And, as much as we talk about the former players or younger coaches on the staff, guys like Antoine Randall and Al Harris, it also, I think, speaks volumes when you look at guys like Richard Smith and Dan Rochar and guys that have been around the league for decades, but still feel that motivation to want to coach because they're coaching under a guy like Ben Johnson.
Yeah, that was pretty funny to me. I'm not gonna. He made me laugh. That's an old timer learning the new faces.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, we got the new guy.
Bush is pretty fast and good. The new guy, what's his name?
X's and O's, not numbers and Joes, right?
Yeah, this guy is a character right there. Just bring a camera. I thought it was Greg's cousin right there. Yeah, we got a guy.
He looks like a region rat. He looks like a region rat. But, just to his point, though, I think that linebacker room is certainly interesting, Phil, when you talk about injuries to TJ Edwards, which I didn't get an opportunity to play the clip, but when he talks about TJ Edwards, you're hard pressed to see a scenario where his roster spot's in danger. That being said, they can love him as the person all they want, but if he's not available, how that shakes out. They bring Jack Sanborn back. He had some really interesting comments about Sanborn being entered back into the fold and looking at him as a Mike or a Sam linebacker and saying, we'll see how that shakes out. So, you have some different options here. And then obviously you draft Keyshawn Elliott, you bring in Devin Bush. And so this is going to be an interesting room here with Noah Sewell, also who I didn't mention, coming off a pretty tough injury as well.
Noah Sewell and Edwards are just going to be an afterthought.
Never mind. Yeah, and I didn't even mention DeMarco Jackson. You're a guy.
DeMarco Jackson is going to be the starting middle linebacker. Just watching tape, I know Steven did a great job. I believe he was Defensive Player of the Week twice. I've never seen a Defensive Player of the Week twice go get sit on the bench, kid. We got Tremaine Edmonds. That was a big mistake. That's a tell for me in regards to Dennis Allen. I hope that changes. I don't like that at all. I think you reward those types of players and you push back against the GM. I'm sorry, you spent the money on the wrong guy. Well, now you got it right. DeMarco's back. I believe Devin Bush is going to be your weak side linebacker. And they play a lot of nickel, so you're looking at those two inside backers, both of them. If we're looking at the big picture of all of them, the coach is 100% right. They're all interchangeable. Like Bush could play middle linebacker and nickel in a pinch, and you can move DeMarco out there. He did it tremendously against the Eagles, lining up against these slot receivers, playing that will linebacker. Jackson was the best in regards to instinctive downhill finisher I've seen in a long time for the Chicago Bears. Edwards, before he was injured, was very instinctive. He just doesn't have the burst that DeMarco had. And having experience in Dennis's defensive philosophy helped Jackson, but give DeMarco his flowers because he earned a 2-year extension. And
is it disrespectful to say that Jack Sanborn and DeMarco Jackson are similar players?
Yeah, Sanborn cannot move like DeMarco. I think
because, like, is it wrong for me to say that they both identify, read, and react?
They both instinctively get going downhill. You're right. Jack has a very good understanding of being able to read the guard or center blocks down, guards pulling, he attacks. But Jackson is so burst, twitchy, and explosive and physical. Like, he's the most underappreciated guy. I just, like, if you're a tape head and you watch DeMarco, you're like, oh, wow. Like, it's ridiculous. So that's why he got that 2-year deal. I was saying you can't let this guy leave. He perfect fit for what it is because he could play both Will and Mike in that nickel. If you want to put him at the Sam, he could do that. Jack is more of a Sam linebacker, Greg, so I'm going to put him on the strong side. He's going to have one read, that tight end tries the inside release. He can get into zone. He can wham up there, deliver the blow. If he's playing an outside 9 or 7 technique and split in the tight end and deliver. I really like Jack in that position. He can't play weak side linebacker. Like, he'll be a liability against a slot receiver. They'll take advantage where DeMarco has really good short area quickness and instincts to go along with that position. Like, this is a position I've coached for 9 years. So when I look at linebackers and I see them flow and deliver and scrape, this kid can do it. And Bush, having DeMarco and Bush out there gives you that speed that you haven't had. Like, Noah Sewell getting beat on those wheel routes consistently, that doesn't happen with Bush. So now you're going to put Bush out there. I think Sanborn is better than Sewell in regards to getting to the angles and understanding. I think he's a little faster than Noah as well. And Sewell coming off that injury. And then you have some of the no-namers that are just, and the rookie who on tape, I can't wait to break that down. I've been dealing with a lot of family stuff, so I haven't been able to break down the end of the draft a little bit as we get to the end of it. So I'm getting to that this week. So
well, let me bring Keyshawn Elliott into the
awesome. He's a good football player.
Let me bring him into the fold here in just a minute. We're reaching the top of the hour, so I wanted to give a quick reminder to everybody. We've been promoting it over the last week, but quick reminder to all of you. We've got the great big CHGO Scramble coming up Friday, June 26th at White Deer Run. That's a 9 a.m. shotgun start. We have so much fun. Look at the amazing outfits we got here on the top. We've got trips to Miami coming up December 14th. We got we're taking a bus to Green Bay, for week 5 of the NFL season. You can do all of that if you become a diehard. You don't have to be a diehard, but if you do, you get a discount on that event. So I want to make sure to give that reminder. Yeah, head to allchgo.com/diehard to sign up. Use the code JAHNS, JAHNS, for $36 for the whole year. That gets you a free shirt as soon as you sign up. That gets you discounts on events as the ones I just mentioned, events on future purchase of merchandise, and exclusive written content from our whole CHGO team throughout the summer, throughout training camp, throughout the season. We mentioned Keyshawn Elliott, so let's hear from him and what he's taking away here coming into the fold, into this linebacker room and trying to compete for a spot.
Pretty full linebackers room right now with veterans. Yeah. What have they told you about what your place is in this linebackers room?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a few of them, most of them actually, and, just met them the other day, my first day here, and, just the insight I got from them was, just be prepared to work every single day. And, Coach Smith is one of the greats. He's been coaching for a long time, so, take in everything that he pours into me.
What's this experience been like? Is your head spinning, like trying to take in all the information? What's it been like that?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot, especially when you're talking about like the schematics of the defense that we run. It's definitely a lot, but I mean, you study it, you go home and you go over to the hotel and look over it at night. You gain more confidence, which allows you just to play faster. So just doing that every night, I'm not worried about it. I know I'll catch up pretty fast, but it's definitely a lot. But that's what I love about the game, the process it takes to be good at it.
There it is again. And I think that was an interesting little tidbit there where he said it's a lot. The schematics is a lot. And again, just doubling back to my point earlier of how much different an offseason this is to last year. It is for Dennis Allen as much as it is for Ben Johnson. And Dennis said, a couple weeks ago, and I know he doesn't have all the answers, but one thing he did say was we focused way too much on scheme and not enough on fundamentals. And you're hearing that from a rookie like, hey, this is a lot from a scheme standpoint. So look how important it is that the scheme, in my opinion, is installed for those that know. So a rookie can get on board faster because he's playing around guys that do. And now he can kind of get up to speed at his own pace. But to me, that is such a key element in this, to be able to get these guys to play with the gifts that they have to understand what they're doing first. And now that you have the majority of the room having that understanding, I think it makes it easier for younger guys or new guys to get implemented into the systems now that they're a year into it, Phil.
Yeah, I think once you have an established scheme, I always tell the kids that are maybe a little step behind, you better be watching the guy in front of you go through this drill or go out there and run their scenario, whether it be first team and how we scheme against somebody else that we're playing. You better be locked into your position. So when you get your shot, you're understanding, and I'm not teaching this 6 times to you. And you could see that when you get into the book and you get to know what it is you're being asked, then in drills and those scenarios, you're able to play fast and you're not thinking about these things. And the problem for me, really looking at this, is I believe this kid is an upgrade to what you drafted in the 4th round in Ruben Hippolyte. So we're going to see how that transpires this year. How does Ruben, 2nd year in this scheme, transition to the competition of Bush, DeMarco Jackson, Sanborn, this kid Elliott coming in. You got.
Now you're sounding like Richard Smith. You got.
Yes, that's why I laughed. You remind me. We got this guy over here.
You got the speedster from Cleveland. You got this young buck from the desert. Yeah.
All my coaches
Got
were
a couple
like,
guys in the tub and we'll figure it all out.
Yep. And Hofstra Joe Gardy would be like, we got a guy from Connecticut. That's how he would do it.
But that's where it's like when you just try to really itemize what the battles are going to be. I do think that obviously corner is going to be very interesting. You even entered some layers that I think fans aren't considering. Obviously, the center position I think is going to take the most headlines throughout training camp.
Everyone's going to be watching,
right?
Yes,
because it's the offense, right? It's Ben Johnson's baby. So, but that linebacker room is really interesting, and there's a lot of names that we know. There's some players we haven't seen. There's injuries within it that are going
to left tackle position too.
Well, and that's where we're gonna finish, and that's a great segue, Phil, is with the left tackle position. And the reason I kind of left this last is because while it could arguably be their most important decision this offseason, I just think at this point it's hard to identify who that battle is going to be. Last year we went through this where they battled with 4 guys all the way through 3 weeks in a training camp. Then it gets down to Braxton Jones and Theo Benedict. By the end of it, they choose Braxton, but even then it was still a competition going into the season. Braxton's trying to come back from an injury. So right now, I think we're kind of reset to where we were last year with the amount of players that are fighting for that position. So it's hard to say it's this person versus this one. When you talk about Braxton Jones, Theo Benedict, Karan Abagaji, and then Jedrick Wills, who nobody knows really anything about in terms of Bears fans. So how that's all going to shake out. Let's hear from Ben Johnson, who talked about this a little bit at the owners meeting about that competition. Now, this is, again, pre-draft. Now we know there is no other left tackle solution from the draft. So let's hear from Ben Johnson on how he sees this whole thing kind of restarting this summer.
The left tackle competition a year ago, as we all know, it was really a 3 or 4 man race throughout training camp, and we were counting on somebody to step to the table. And it took some time for us to get clarity on that. We started the season with Braxton. I think he would tell you he still didn't feel 100% like himself from the prior year's injury, and so what he put on tape those first 4 games, he didn't feel like was very reflective of what he's capable of. Looking back at it, we would agree with that. We think there's more in there than what we saw. He ended up getting injured in practice during the season, and so we lost him for a stretch as well. We only got him back there right at the very end, and we didn't feel like it was fair to force him into action in the playoffs right off the bench just like that. And so I'm excited about where he's at right now. He came in when he signed the contract, and he looked like a brand new man as far as I'm concerned. This guy was beefed up. He was probably 310 pounds, and he looked yoked up, and I know he's very determined to get his career trajectory back to where it was before.
So, like I said, I know we played that clip a month ago, but that was prior to the draft. But I think all those words hit a little harder now that we know there isn't a left tackle in the first round. That's changing this whole conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear him talk again about Braxton and the focus and talking about the playoffs. And, you never know. As Kerry's saying, Braxton could win it. And Braxton certainly has the reps under and over everybody in that competition in regards to how many games and how many reps he started. Everyone knows the story of him as a 5th round pick coming out and winning that job. And, we all also know his weaknesses, and those weaknesses continue to be weaknesses until they aren't. So Ben saying he's yoked up, 310 pounds, and he looks like a guy, that's great and good. Just like Steven was saying about Tyreek Stevenson. I think it's important that these guys, your job in the NFL is to prepare your brand, and your brand is your body. And being ready for your football team is preparing yourself for the physicality of the season. And there's nothing more physical than playing that left tackle position, going up against the Myles Garretts and the TJ Watts of the world, and you're having to hold up. And when you have back injuries and your legs are kind of thin and you need to be able to anchor better, those things have to be done in the off season. You have to get stronger. You have to get in the weight room. Got to start doing hang cleans and doing the squats and the power squats and all of that stuff to get yourself and the plyometrics to get your burst and your strength to where your upper body has always been, because he's got long arms and good athleticism. He doesn't have bad feet. He's got good feet. He's just been weak at the point of attack, and he's been able to get pushed over a lot, and that's not what you want. Trapillo being in there was able to hold up because he was so bulky, and he was huge at 6'8" or whatever he is, and being able to get those long arms and that big body on people was helpful. So how this kind of Cedric coming in is an unknown, because there's no questioning the talent he had coming out of Alabama. It was a first-round pick. Had a terrible injury, and now he's coming back off that injury, so he's an unknown. Amagaji has always been injured. He was drafted injured, following the Ryan Poles mantra, let's draft an injured guy. Does he have a rod in his leg or whatever it is? This stuff has to iron itself out. I'm just glad they've saying it's an open competition to win. I like that, because again, you got to get the answer. It goes along the lines. I know it's cliche, but competition breeds success, and whoever rises to the occasion, the offensive line coach and the head coach have to be 100% sure that's the guy. So everybody's getting the shot until you decide for us. You decide for us who is going to start, who is going to be that guy. I'm not doing that. You are. And that kind of competition with everybody getting a fair shot is only going to help the Chicago Bears and that offensive line, which already has Joe Thuney right there. You got Bradbury and Logan Jones. You got Jonah Jackson and Darnell Wright. This is a strength. You could be a part of the strength, or you could be watching from the sideline. That's really what it boils down to.
Well, and how are you going to compete if you're not available? And that's going to be the biggest key for Braxton, Karan Amagaji, Jedrick Wills, for all different reasons.
And
for each
Theo
of them.
Benedict, right? There's four.
Well, Theo, but the three of those guys, have had injuries.
Theo also got injured too, Greg.
Yeah, that's true.
He did get injured too, his back or something. So all of them have been injured, to your point.
Yep.
It fits along this line. Who is going to, because you're right.
May the best man win it.
Right.
May the best man who's available.
That's unfortunate too, because I always look at it like this. My uncle, when he was coaching the Browns, always preached that. Like, okay, I want you to take a break from football. Season's over. You need time off. But then when it's time, you need to work on your body and your weaknesses. And I felt like I heard Ben Johnson saying the same thing when he was saying, it's time to take a break. This has been a long season. I want these guys to take a break. And I hope he's coming in with that same message to all of those guys, because you're going to have to be ready. You're going to have to be prepared, because think about it like this, and a lot of fans don't. So some of you I know do. So you already know this, but there's a mental preparation and a physical one. Okay. You have to juggle both of those. So in the off season, you're doing both. You're doing the work on your body, your physicality, your conditioning, as well as your mental fortitude to understand the concepts, the plays, your responsibilities, your alignment, and your assignment. You need to understand all that stuff. So can you handle all of that? You should, because you're a professional. That's the expectation. Not all of them can, though. So when you have those players that are selfish or they don't really care, they weed themselves out. That's why this is good to say this is an open competition. Braxton's been looking great. Okay, I've heard that before. Dominique Robinson was looking outstanding. He got you 1 sack. or 2, whatever he got. The reality is we can talk about body beautiful all we want. It's got to be the both of them in unison, a mental and physical understanding of where you're going here, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, and hopefully where this team is going is to the NFC Championship and beyond, as we saw them on the doorsteps of that last season. And so, I mean, it's just going to come down to, you know, where this team is most prepared come the summer, and how are they going to enter training camp the healthiest they possibly can be, but way more dialed ahead than they were last season. Who's going to be the ones to get on board there? Because, you know, as Ben Johnson, I think, said last year, you know, at this time when he brought in a rookie class of Luther Burden and Colston Loveland and Trapillo and some different guys, right? Kyle Monungai. And he said, you know, we brought in guys because we're turning the notch up on it. We're turning the heat up on a few people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's all. That's what they did again here this offseason. They did it again in some different ways. So turning the heat up on a veteran center in Garrett Bradbury, right? Turning the heat up all the way across the board, you know, and you mentioned all the way to the top, right? And it might sound staggering to some when you consider some of the bigger names, but look at how things played out in 1 year from drafting Luther Burden to DJ Moore now on the Buffalo Bills. So things change fast, and that's the nature of this league. And I think Ben Johnson understands that. And so he's creating competition, and he's trying to get fast. And a lot of times that means young. And a lot of times, what does young mean? Young means cheap. So all those things work hand in hand in how you can build a championship. So that wraps things up here for tonight. Thank you, Phil, as always, for all your time here on CHGO Bears After Dark. Once again, make sure you subscribe to the Tape Never Lies Network. Keeping It 100 will be on Wednesday night, as it always is, but don't forget to make sure you subscribe and become a Patreon to everything they do there, because they have content throughout the week. Thank you to Stephen Nicholas, our executive producer, sitting in the host chair here tonight, breaking some things down. Appreciate him as always, and thank you to everyone hanging out in the chat. You know, if you're watching a show here on a Monday night, or Tuesday night, I should say, on May 26th, you are of the top echelon of all diehards. So Alex has got it right. This is my Midwestern goodbye. Love you all. Appreciate you guys. Now that the summer's here, hopefully you're enjoying that here. The heat, the good weather, and the good vibes. Hopefully our baseball team on the north side can get a turnaround. I know the Sox are rocking and rolling. Good for you guys. But once again, thank you, Phil. Thank you to everybody. I will catch you tomorrow on CHGO Bears at 1 p.m. Central. So as I always like to say, keep your head up and always bear down.
We all silly like the mayor.